to Charmed Life, a radio show discussing spirituality, magic, and the unconditional love of the universe. Thanks for tuning in. And I am your host, Tricia Carr. Welcome to this episode. I am so excited to dive in today. I have a very special in-studio guest, and I want to tell you guys all about her. But first, let me tell you about a couple of other things, and that is one being my intuitive mediumship development class that I have twice per month. This is a standalone class that is ongoing for you to drop in. I have different topics that I teach on, and there's fellowship, and there is a space for folks to be able to actually practice if you want to practice your skills, and if you are not at the place where you want to practice, or it's just not a day for you to practice, then that's okay too. And there's that one thing, so go check that out on my website, triciacarcharm.com, under Mystic Arts Academy, which you'll find housed under Work With Me. There you'll also find my one-on-one services, including my intuitive mediumship service. And so that is a space where we do a full session. You could even add some animal communication there, energy healing, a spiritual ability assessment, looking at past and future lives, seeing who is on your spirit team, mediumship, healing, anything that needs to be done. That's what we do in these sessions. They're so near and dear to my heart. I actually have a limited amount that I offer because it's a very powerful experience. It's a small part of my work, but an impactful part of what I offer. So I just want to point that out because I sometimes don't do that. And of course, you'll find my animal communication there. But in addition to all of that we have still the registration open for the 2019 Mediumship Intensive. This is a 6-week immersive program taught by myself and Kellie Anne Compton, the founder of the Lightworkers Lab. And so you can still register. We're starting on September 9th, 2019. And go check that out in the description and join us. And someone else who is going to be there teaching, also doing some guest teaching for us, we're so honored to have her, is my in-studio guest today. She's coming all the way from Australia to see me, just to see you guys on the show today. Isn't that right?
Absolutely.
We have intuitive life coach, medium, and spiritual teacher, Kellie Anne Nelson.
Hi everyone. Hi, Tricia.
So excited. Kellie has been on Enlightened AF, my other podcast that I have with Ada and Demarest, but we haven't been able to align because she lives in the future.
Mm-hmm. I am future girl from Australia, where I think 14 to 17 hours ahead
Something
of you
like
guys
that.
Here. So yeah.
Yeah, so I'm just so excited. She's in town visiting. She's going to be in the U.S. We're going to be going to the Bliss Retreat together next week and having so much time. I've been so honored to have her actually just stay in my house with me. It's so cool.
I crashed in Tricia's house. Where else would I stay when she's so wonderful? And it has all the kitties. So.
The kitties love her so much. Like my little Delilah, my little feral girl, she loves Kellie. I keep telling her, like, she does not do that. It's really weird, actually. She's like, Mommy, I like her. She's nice.
I swear if I had another week, she would be in my lab.
I know.
She's getting closer and closer every day.
Yeah, she just has to train you.
Yes.
That's all. It's not her. She has to train you on how it's done.
Yeah. I don't like it there. I do like it here. Yeah. Let me tot around a bit, and then I'm good.
That's it. You know, the way that we used to be when we were in the nightclubs when we were single.
Oh, yeah. She's like in her early 20s.
Totally. Well, Kellie has an amazing, just work that she does, amazing gifts, so powerful, so evidential, so, you're really a physical medium. So explain to people, that's what's coming through for me. Let's talk about that, like how your gifts actually work and the experience of being a more physical experience, kind of experiencing medium. Yeah. What does that mean? Yeah.
Well, different layers. So if we have a look into it, there's different types of mediums. The mental medium, where they relay third-person information through from past loved ones and animals. Then you have the trance medium, where you often blend with the deceased and often change your own vocals or even your face morphing.
Well, that happens to me a lot, especially in the last year. And it actually, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just want to...
Go for it.
That when it's people's past loved ones, and obviously when they're in the light, and that's been happening. And it actually happened even in the beginning, where the client would be like, that's exactly like something he or she would say, or some. But I haven't had someone tell me that I look like them. I know you see that in other people, and people have told that to you.
To me, yeah. Even on some of my live videos, we've captured it where my eyes have changed color or things like that. But it's where you kind of channel their energy through you, and it becomes part of you without overtaking you, of course.
No, never.
Yes,
free will always.
And boundaries.
Yes.
However, you may even just take on the mannerisms of the person who you're channeling. You may even get the accent of how they spoke, and sometimes the look. So it's more of a hypnotic state of mediumship.
Deeper hypnosis.
Yeah. And then you can have the physical mediumship where you can do all of those things as well as bring in apports, so things that just appear out of nowhere or have energy affecting external situations like televisions or radios and things like that. Levitation, if you're really good, all of that stuff that you would expect. Something like Whoopi Goldberg's scene in The Ghost. Right? So you have all the physical manifestations in your three-dimensional reality from that spirit that you're connecting with.
So what do you think? Sorry, I stepped away for
It's okay.
I'm getting excited.
Yeah.
So let's talk about some of that. Like you have had sessions where the electronics are coming on or something like that. And so you're saying that is, explain the metaphysically what's happening there, that you said something about portals that are showing up, and that's why, is that it, adjusting the field?
Yeah.
And just like when that has happened, and how is it helpful when that stuff, like obviously spirit has a reason, and especially because you are a light worker. So there's a reason for these things. It's not just for magic tricks or parlor tricks or whatever. Yeah.
Well, that's very late. Okay, let me address it.
I know. I'm getting excited.
Okay, so basically, spirit has a way of, because they are energy, they can interfere with energetic capabilities such as electricity or lighting and things like that. And so they often can have a tendency of giving signs like turning TVs on or radios on and dimming lights and physicality like that. So there have been a couple of instances where I've been dealing with clients that may have needed just a little bit more of evidence. Maybe they weren't hearing what I was saying, so spirit then steps in and says, well, you're not listening. I'm going to give you something physical to really, truly prove I'm here. And one client in particular, we were in a session and no one was near the TV whatsoever. It was behind us in the living room, and all of a sudden it just turns on, and I heard spirit say the next 3 commercials. Just watch those next 3 commercials. And every commercial had something to do with the relevancy of what I had stipulated in our session.
Amazing. And
she was blown away. So yes, they can have a place within readings. You may want to warn your sitter a bit prior that this may occur, because it can be overwhelming for people who aren't used to the industry, aren't used to connecting to things like that. So it's important to say, hey, look, I'm going to bring them in. Sometimes they do this. I often tell my clients that, well, my head won't spin around like The Exorcist, but I may talk off to the distance, or things may change in our environment, but don't be afraid, because we really need to focus in on the fact that we have control, we have dominion, that we have good boundaries, and I am working for the benefit of the highest good of the sitter. So any information that's coming through, or any spirit that I'm connecting with, has a higher vibration or something that is beneficial for that person. So those signs and symbols that they give aren't to make you afraid. It is really just as a important validation for the person you're reading for, to say, hey, look, I am still really here. I love you, and this is the only way I know how to communicate from this position of where I'm at.
And to crack that heart open so that you can listen, and rather being in your own world, and your own, maybe in sometimes like your own grief and your own rejection of how things are, because I think that's what grief kind of is. It's being able to move into acceptance
of your new reality without that person in there. Yeah, what does my life look like now without that support, without that connection and that love? So and
the truth is that connection and that love is still there, but we have to orient it to something that is no longer creating a physical body.
Yes.
Yeah. And when I say it's actually quite a beautiful experience, because the way then we have to go into our own heart. So it's just so so beautiful, you know what I mean? Like, and that they've now, and there's something too, especially if it's, I don't know, actually, it's someone that you love. It could be an animal, it could be someone you're related to, or just someone that is, you have a bond with, and a part of you goes over there with them. because of your connection. So it changes you.
Yeah, if you imagine it like an electrical cord or like a straw, it's still connected to the plug. Like you're still plugged in, that creator energy, that high heart chakra of you know, connection, of love and all that is. And you merely have to just learn how to communicate via that portal and be taken to them on an energetic level rather than face to face nowadays. So they, as soon as you tap in, they're there. They can hear you. They feel that connection. They feel that energy. But if you are full of grief and anger sometimes and frustration about how they pass, then it closes that heart chakra down and it's more complicated and difficult to connect. That's why it's easier for that's why it's easier for mediums to connect to past loved ones of other people rather than for themselves.
Right. I even heard James Van Praagh say that. He's like, when my father passed, I couldn't connect with him, and he's you know, obviously very connected, as you know, as famous as he is. And and that's a good, thank you for explaining it that way. I think that I hope some people will take that to heart. I work with animals a lot, and so people, I mean, we have people who have animals as their family members. We go through that a lot because they tend to live shorter lives than humans, the ones that are our domesticated animals. And so I hear people often when they've lost someone, animal or human, you know, they say, I've been waiting for him or her to show up. And
they're already there.
But
it's just you have that filter of grief over that you cannot perceive it. So they are constantly around us all the time. They are with us and giving us signs and symbols all the time. It's just that we're not receptive to it because we're shut down. We're sitting in that lower vibrational frequency. We're not paying attention and looking because we're not seeing them in the physical. Therefore, we eliminate that possibility from our mindset. It's not until you start seeing the synchronicities of signs and symbols, and you know, some people even get things like the phone call from the old telephone number. That
stuff is wild.
It's crazy. They're like, oh, wait a second. Are you trying to contact me, or am I being haunted? And so they do everything they can in their power by adjusting electronics and things like that to get your attention, to say, hey, look, I'm still here. You just have to learn a different way to communicate.
And you mentioned, I have so many questions that I can feel people asking. That's why I'm like, which one? Okay, who's going to sort them for me? And Gabriel stepping forward saying, I'll sort them. Just this one is here now. And so the one that is here now is, you mentioned three types: the third person medium, trance, and physical. And are these? Would you say that these are natural talents, or could, if a person wanted to enhance one kind of function of them more than the other, or you know what I mean? Like
Look, we are all. There is no such thing as a natural born medium, in my opinion.
Thank you for saying that. Well, or there is, or
we
everyone
all
is.
We all are.
Yes.
It's not that one person is born with this ability compared to someone else. We are all entered into this incarnation with a direct connection of where we've just come from in the fourth dimension, wherever you've come from. And it's only through conditioning and layers of our family's belief system, which are placed upon us, that we then start to shut down that ability.
Right.
We start to fear it, or we start to judge it, or, you know, even television and society through making it a fear-based thing through movies and TV series that make you think, oh, I don't really want to be able to do that.
Right.
Yeah.
And something that I've said is that, you know, there are people who have experiences as children and other people don't feel that they have had them, or people have experiences that are without their own free will consent. And I think that the people that are having those experiences it's not about necessarily, it could be, but not necessarily because of their talent, but if they're happening seemingly against their free will, it has to do with their personality and how they're running their energy. Maybe the belief system was placed upon them is something that's disempowered. They don't know they have the ability to control their energetic space. Of course, we don't have the ability to control our physical space even as children. So when do we get to control anything? But in addition to that...
Oh, so many layers.
I know.
Like, when we're talking at home, we'd just be interrupting each other and then lose track.
But I also think that maybe we all do have those... well, let's just say we all do have spiritual experiences as children because it's natural.
Yes.
But we don't remember
because when we're in fight or flight, we don't actually transmute those short-term memories into long-term memory.
Right.
So you have experienced it, you just don't remember.
You don't remember
that you've experienced it.
And sometimes it's like your parents made a big deal of it or they didn't.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like if your parents just thought, oh, that's cute, whatever, and so they didn't, and then you forget because it wasn't enhanced in your experience. Or if a parent was like, what's happening? That's scary. That's the devil. Then that would make you remember it, you know? Or if they, you know, enhanced it in a good way, like, yes, of course you're able to see grandma, and, you know, and it was... It's just, I think we just forget, and some people don't forget for whatever reason. Maybe it's, again, personality beliefs or, so everyone, I love that you said that. And I think people that say that it's not because they are necessarily trying to be special, someone who says, I'm a natural born medium, it's that they haven't lost the thread of the awareness of it because of whatever their life, however the path was going, you know what I mean?
I was very fortunate as a young child that my mother was so open to spirituality. She had a life where her belief systems and her experiences were not validated, and she didn't want that for me. So even if she didn't believe me in the moment that I was hearing footsteps or seeing dead people coming at me, or, you know, she would still support me and say, you know, that's okay, and try and make it a comfortable situation. It wasn't until then she started noticing the premonitions and the, you know, the hearing voices and things herself as well, that she goes, maybe there's something a little more to this. And she embraced it still even more and said, hey, look, let's have a look at this, and got me to do readings for her and all this type of jazz. So very blessed in the fact that I wasn't shut down by her.
Right.
However,
you shut it down yourself?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, of course. Well, we have to. That's a part of committing to this experience, I think, is ourselves shutting it down. I mean, yes, of course, it's often in response to fear imposed by the caregivers, of whether it's your parents or whoever else.
Mine was situational. So I was actually, at a very young age, 5 or 6 year old, having spirits coming to me, presenting in the way that they died. So gunshot wounds to the head or nooses around the neck. And you imagine a 5 or 6 year old by themselves in the middle of the night in their bed. That's terrifying. Yeah. You know, and so you think... You literally put in boundaries, and that's all it is. As a child, you find your dominion very quickly because we're not afraid to chuck tantrums. We're not afraid to say our piece very loudly. And in the middle of the night, I'm yelling, I don't want to see you. You know, I've had enough. And, you know, you're hiding under the blankie. And so it's the same as an adult, I guess, when you were saying before about how we experience things even if we're not open to it, but they're fearful, you know.
Usually that's fearful, right?
It's fearful, law of attraction. They're bringing in that negative energy by being in the negative energy themselves. And just because they don't have good boundaries, it does continue sometimes in a fearful way for them. Whereas if they just realize their dominion, or if they just realize that they had control and that they could choose what they do see, what they don't see, if they don't want to see anything at all. It's all about our intention and our will of what we want to do. The evidence are always there, like I said. They're always there. It's just whether you're perceiving them or not. And if you want to grow that, you can. You can set the intention that you want to learn more, that you want to open these abilities up again. I'm not saying learn them afresh, opening them up again, and stepping into that truth, that understanding and awareness of connection to, you know, our entirety of our existence, not just this 3D self. It's everything that's around us, spiritually and energetically as well.
And, you know, as you said, it's, you know, they're in that lower vibration, and that's how they attract the things that are fearful to them. And that doesn't mean you're a bad person. It just means that the lower vibration, it's honestly like there is no judgment in the universe, and we're here to experience the low vibration as well.
Absolutely.
So that we can expand from, you know, moving back into the higher. So it doesn't mean you're a bad person. But here's the thing. It's like people will say, well, I can't help it. I can't help it, you know, if they're having experiences that they don't want on this certain dimension of awareness of what their will is. and they say, well, I can't help it. They just come through to me. And I'm like, well, yeah, because you just said that.
Yes.
Like, that's your belief. And so they're agreeing. That's your intention. Exactly.
Yes.
And if you have a belief that you can't control it, then that's what you were calling into your experience. So then right there, what step one is adopt, be able to shift your understanding to the fact that you can have say in it. And again, how beautiful that you are now being empowered. You must be empowered in order to evolve into that state that is actually fostering your growth. And I think that's beautiful.
And you are what you speak. Like
Absolutely.
That's number one in spirituality and raising your vibration is that you speak your reality into existence. And if you are standing there declaring that, they just come in and well, that's the reality you're creating. So if you were to say, no, I have good, strong boundaries, and you tell them, this is it, this is a time of operation that you can come and see me, that's what they're going to listen to. Spirit is very literal sometimes.
I say that all the time.
It's so literal.
Energy is literal.
Yes.
See, this is the thing, because we are less literal as humans. You know, like, for example, we say, don't be scared. Like, that's not literal. That is undoing a problem rather than affirming a truth, you know? And so spirit in your energy, as I say, like, it doesn't mean that you're bad if you are like attracting fearful things. It means you're afraid, and that's not a bad thing. That's a human thing, you know. That's okay. It means you have some fear that wants light brought into it so it can be released.
And we need to. We've come here for particular reasons, for lessons, for growth, for being of service to others. And if you were happy 100% of the time, what would you be doing? Like, it's human response to sit down into those emotions of resentment and anger and frustration, and it's a part of life. Everything has to have balance. Everything, the yin and yang, everything has to have the light and the dark, and that's just how it works. It's the flow. And if you deny all of that or think that you are just the dark and not appreciate the light within yourself, then you're really not doing yourself any favors. You have to see how wonderful and truly capable you are in this world as well. So.
Right. You're not doing this world, this universe, a favor.
Even.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's another thing that is so common. And well, the one thing Gabriel is telling me to say, like, that when you're fear-based, the thing is, if you think like, well, I'm seeing dark things, it's my fault, that means it's because I'm being punished. Again, that's not literal. That is a couple of steps away from what the literal thing is that you have fear that wants to be healed. And so that is the stream that is being shown to you. And that's the beautiful thing that you're calling in, so that your soul, your inner being, can grow through it.
May I interject too?
Please.
Is that we humans are very egotistical in the way of thinking everything is about us, right? And so many times people experience, let's just say, mediumistic presences through earthbound spirits. Now, an earthbound is a soul that hasn't really crossed over into the light or back into where, the I am energy just yet, that their echo is situated within a house or onto an item, and that spirit is stuck in a loop, basically. This is my property, this is my table counter, and you move into that home. It's nothing about you and what you're attracting to your energy. Right. It is circumstantial. If I may share
circumstantial. And again, I guess maybe also it's like, but there's an opportunity still. Yes, for growth.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. But go ahead, please share.
Yes, so if I may share a personal story.
Yes.
My mother committed suicide when I was 16. We lived in an apartment complex that was housing commission, and it was a 2-bedroom apartment where my mother had one room, I had the other. And she committed suicide in that apartment, unfortunately. But after she had passed, I moved out, and our neighbour, a year later, actually contacted me and said, Kellie, you have to come to this house. The woman who had moved in was a single mother with a son, both in the same rooms that we were in. And that woman was having a nightmare every night with this blonde, short lady yelling at her at the end of the bed saying, get out of my house. Oh. And so what I did was I went into that apartment again, felt her energy so strongly, and just said, this is not your home anymore. It's time to go. And so, I think part of the mediumship ability, like you said, it isn't the bells and whistles. It's not just about bringing closure to people through readings, but we can also help spirit who are caught in limbo or earthbounds by helping them cross over. So it's a really beautiful gift that is empowering. It's so helpful on so many different levels, and definitely nothing that you should be fearing.
Right. It's perfectly natural.
Perfectly natural.
So now, do you see a distinction, if I may ask? So was that your mother? It was the echo of your actual mother?
It was my mother.
She didn't cross. Do you think she, if this isn't too personal, because sometimes when spirits don't cross, it's because they fear punishment or something. That's part of it.
Yeah, she was raised Roman Catholic, coming from a Catholic family. I don't believe, from my experience, I don't believe that she was there because of a religious belief or the fear of being judged or judged of suicide. I simply, when I went into that in energy, it was sad. It was just so
she was
sad.
just in that looping energy.
I think, well, the
Depressive.
looping, the mentality you have to enter into to commit suicide is, it's not logical.
No.
It's not rational.
Right.
You sometimes get stuck in that depression and that frustration.
And
I was
the
her
symptoms
love.
of it. The symptoms of it create the cause, create the symptoms. That's
Exactly.
the looping
It's
we're talking about. The
loop.
symptoms enhance. It's like the intervention needs to be so strong to be able to break that cycling. So
I feel the energy that I felt was that she was always, in amongst all of the mental health, she was always such a strong, intentional mother. She always wanted to raise me the very best way. And I actually feel that she was there to kind of say goodbye to me. Because the moment I stepped into that and said goodbye and I love you, there was no other problems there. And she actually then started presenting to me in the forms of animals and birds and giving me symbols that she could then be connected with. So it was almost a grieving situation for her, not wanting to leave me behind.
Right.
And we actually have people sometimes, clients, that can stop a soul from crossing over because they're holding on and not ready to let go. Yeah. And the soul stays around to comfort and support that. But as soon as you pass, there is no connection to this physical world from your reality. It's more you're happy to go into the light because that's your most natural state of being.
It's what Spirit has said to me before, what I call the path of light, continuing on your path of light. And so if you are not continuing on your path of light, there's really no more evolution, because you're meant to be, we are in the fourth dimension as well as physical people, but the fourth dimension is really a portal dimension. So if you aren't using that dimension with a physical body, then you aren't evolving anymore. You're just kind of starting to loosen, you know what I mean? Like, I guess is the way I would think of it. You know, the personality or the things that had created the nuances of you, it kind of start to soften and Would you describe it that way?
Yeah,
I
agree.
Now, let's talk about the distinction. So that was really your mom, and actually, I have another friend who's I think on this program described that her loved one who passed didn't pass for like 2 years because he thought that he was leaving her forever. He didn't know that he could move into the light, have his healing, and then actually still have a connection to her. The past person did, you know what I mean? So that's kind of the same thing. There was this attachment between them because they thought they were leaving one another forever.
Do you know what is really beautiful is that I have experienced that with clients before, and the time in which they leave is when that they've seen the person they've left behind in the physical has married up again or has found someone else to fill that void, and making sure that they're being connected in the physical.
Right.
So many times people think that, we've been married, or this is my only love of my life, and that if I was to date anyone else or marry anyone else, that they would be angry. Absolutely not. Sometimes they even help align the new partner to come into play for them.
Right.
So, so maybe that's why they stick around for the 2 years to say, well, I'm here because I still have a purpose.
Right.
I'm not earthbound, but I'm being very present around you and guiding you, because that's what they do. They can sometimes become your guardian angels or your guidance system, and they can align you to where you need to be.
Right.
Yeah.
So they, in that situation we're talking about, they actually did continue on their path of light, but they're staying very close, right? I'm asking. Is that what
sorry.
you're...
I'm off into...
I'm asking, like, so it's... however we describe it. It's way simpler than it actually is, I'm certain. You just try to wrap our brains around it. Our little tiny brains, our little physical brains.
I feel what you're talking about is contract. I
sure.
feel it's soul contract.
Yeah.
So the continuance of path is that you, before coming into this sorry, now Spirit's trying to come in. I'm just trying to back them off because I'm tapping into that channel. Yes, before you come into the incarnation, that you agree to certain experiences and certain roles and responsibilities for the people that you're interacting with and have a big role, your soul family. And sometimes that contract is for your partner to experience loss. But as a soul family member, you still have the responsibility or the want to see them continue the growth through that and support that lesson. So even though they've gone from the physical, they're still with you in the spiritual, doing the work to help you and them heal, because you can heal in spirit as well and learn and grow in the light, as like you said. And that just is the contract playing out.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah. You're still in, you still have the relationship and you want to help them move to the next thing. You know, we both have to turn our keys sometimes when we're in a partnership in order to move on to the next lesson together or, individually. There is, I do want to talk about some deep metaphysical stuff too. Well, so,
sure.
There's also these different ways where there will be paranormal experiences that are occurring in spaces, and they aren't necessarily earthbound spirits. I call them kind of energy loops or impressions on the field. And it often, like if you think about the famous haunted places, and they just see a woman going up the stairs all the time and everything, and it's known for that, and that is like, to me, is like thought form energy that we're projecting onto it.
Absolutely.
Right, yeah.
The story has been told. We are speaking it into existence. There are a multitude of people believing
the boogeyman or something like, you know what I mean? Like,
trust me, I believe Bloody Mary is real.
Yeah.
I don't look in the mirror of a night time.
My sister scared me so much with Bloody Mary when I was little, so I don't play with that.
Oh no, it's just all bad.
And that's like that's a technique actually to actually open a portal.
Absolutely.
Using mirrors and stuff like that and lights, and I'm like, not for me. I have some negative conditioning around that. I'll stick with some other tools.
Yes, but it's only because of your belief in that it becomes that.
I know, yeah.
If we were to stop and say, hey, you're being silly, that's not going to happen. Well, that then doesn't become a portal.
It's true, but I also don't need to use that
No,
tool.
Absolutely not.
There are so many.
And you probably shouldn't.
There's just countless ones.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we've spoken it in, and then there are just. But I think that's
and belief system
and
the scare, the fear is attracting maybe not particularly that spirit that has haunted the place, but another entity or shapeshifter or thought form or shadow man or whatever that comes in or trickster and takes its place and has fun with that fearful energy, you know?
Right. Ooh, let's talk about some of all those things. And also knowing that we don't have to experience them at all. But there's just, again, there's like, it's kind of like, there's no point in getting freaked out about it, because it's like, when you were at a certain age of youth and someone told you that, and you saw that there was like so many little, not insects, but little microscopic parasites that live on your skin and your hairs and everything, and then you could become a germaphobe, but it's how it's supposed to be. But there are other collections of energies. Some of them are sophisticated, some are not sophisticated, that are just there. So, and usually the ones you're talking about, the tricksters and the everything, they don't have any power that you don't give them. I mean, that was very not literal. They only have the power that you give them. And they really can't do anything but frighten you. And when they do that, this is the thing: is that if you believe that your mind and that your spirit is weak, then that is to the degree that they can cause you any trouble, really, right?
Yeah. Well, real
trouble. I mean.
Yeah. Yes. Absolutely. Yes. The more belief system you put into it, then. Yes, the more energy you give it and the more power you give.
But they can't physically kill you because they're energy. But they can, if you succumb to, for example, they can't physically kill you, or but you being afraid of your own mind, you know what I mean? Like that's how things can get manipulated.
Sometimes people get into really bad situations though, where things are being, and I'm speaking from experience, that I've had things thrown at me from across the room or pictures falling off the walls. And that is because I was in the fear-based and I wasn't stepping into the light about it, mostly as a child even in particular. I do, when you say that you don't have to fear them, It's hard not to sometimes because those particular types of beings or entities have a certain signature because they are of a denser energy. So your body naturally reacts. Anytime we're in a danger situation, we are still animalistic on the inside, right? We still react to our external energy frequencies and our environment around us. And so even though you may not have the belief system or awareness, you still feel it.
Sure,
on the
absolutely.
physical level.
Yeah, that's not what I mean. More like if we talk about this, you guys don't have to like anyone who is interested in opening themselves up to spirit and with the capital S.
Yes,
it doesn't mean you're opening yourself up necessarily to all of that list that we gave of all the funky things.
To be honest with you, there are particular intentions that I set when I'm working with spirit. You get to know the energy difference between, the signatures of the things coming in. And as soon as you feel that denser or negative energy, you just say, no, not connecting.
Yeah, right.
And it's done. And you don't have to.
It's so much easier than being around bad people.
So much easier.
Because you have to like walk away from them, you know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah, you just out.
Yeah. You just like
talk to the hand.
And you don't worry about their feelings or anything like that. And
I'm always polite though, because you don't want to piss them off.
Yeah, well, but also because if you're not polite,
it's energy.
It's energy that you're kind of. It's almost a resistant energy. You know what I mean?
It's a fight and attack energy. Yeah. You don't want to attack them and say and put that energy to them because it feeds them.
It's a charged energy.
It's a charge, right? Whereas you just say, I acknowledge. I don't care.
Yeah.
And off you go. It's a very placid, neutral plane of energy to come from. And that's what we're aiming to be, is neutrality.
Or even I've had a person who was on my show. It was Sam Fox, by the way. He's a really great YouTube channel. And when he started to open up to his abilities and I believe he was opening up to, I don't know if he's very clairsentient and maybe even channeling, I'm not sure. But he was describing that he went through a phase where he was seeing things that he called demons or something, like some negative. And he said that he decided to love them and they went away.
Yes. I laughed at mine. Yeah. My mother actually, she taught me the very best lesson in the weirdest, wonderful way in mental health. But someone actually came up to her and flashed her with
a human?
A human. Okay. An actual human came up to her with a trench coat on, opened it up and shook his junk at her. And she just stood there pointing at him, laughing at him. You call that? That's just a Cheerio, So... And it was the best lesson I have ever learned because with spirit, it's the same thing. It's like, you're trying to be scary? I don't think so. I've seen a lot worse. Like, take it away.
Oh, that's really funny.
And because that laughter is of high vibration.
It is.
It is of joy. It is of power. And so when you step into that, you're no longer in fear. You're raising the vibration so they don't even like it. Law of attraction.
Yes.
You attract what you put out there and what you resonate at, so vibrate at.
Well, I'm asking Gabriel again because I want to we can chew on some things. So, mediumship, we've been talking a lot about we talked about this together yesterday. We were talking about the difference between psychic or intuitive and mediumship, and you asked me what I thought the distinction was. What do you think the distinction is?
I agreed with you. So I believe that we're talking about echoes. So the energetic signature left here behind by that physical person can be perceived by a psychic. Does that mean that they're connecting into the exact soul of the person? No.
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
Right. Sometimes that can be a portal. Right? Yeah.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So a psychic can sit there and read a sitter and say, tap into the memory of such, tap into the emotions connected to that person, describe it based on what you sense around the field of the person who you're reading for. If you do pick up a father figure that had passed for this person, a medium can actually go into that energy which connects through that heart cord to the actual soul and individual, if you're talking about past loved ones or multidimensional mediumship where you're going into archangels or whatnot, and actually connect and talk to that specific being or entity or person. Right. So I think mediumship is more of a communication with a one-on-one than it is with picking up the energetic field. Right.
Yeah. And then we just tend to, this is just sort of a current culture, I would say that the word intuitive, usually people associate that meaning that it is the higher frequencies only. Like that's what I think people tend to think intuitive is, whereas psychic could mean anything. Psychic is a larger catch-all word, so it could be, you know, like a person who is a Wall Street, you know, kind of aggressive banker who has an instinct about a way to be able to take advantage of the market, and maybe some individuals or something like that. That's a psychic ability that he's feeling.
Yeah. Actually, you know, now that you say that, we are all intuitive.
Yes.
Gut intuition.
Absolutely.
Everyone has that fight or flight reaction. That's intuition. Everyone has that nurture or whatever, feeling within their body that they react upon. Psychic is merely being able to perceive that as a sign and symbol.
Right.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
psychic knows that that's a message to you.
Base
to act
body.
Upon.
It includes and can be limited to the base, the body, the just the here. Whereas intuitive tends to have, again, the connotation or the association we seem to give to it, the higher frequencies. Yes. Right? You know, the collective consciousness, the all energy, the big I am energy. Yeah. Maybe it'll change in 10 years, I don't know, but that just seems to be the only distinction. And that's not to say that, and again, psychic I think is intuitive, or you know what I mean? Yeah. It's like dog or Labrador retriever. Yes.
But to come down to it, it's all just language.
Yes, exactly. It's for us to be able to understand, be able to put our brains around it and visit back to it and use it as a tool, and hopefully expand on from it at some point. Yeah. So, okay, and let's talk about multidimensional mediumship. You mentioned for those of you at home who are like, what is she talking about? Yeah. Which is, I feel that's how it's interesting. People tend to think that, I think this is an inheritance from an older kind of spiritualism, that mediumship means you're just talking to dead people or people that used to live. But again, if we're talking about it just as individualized expressions of spirit, then yes, animals, of course. But those higher dimensions.
Absolutely.
And so has that always been a part of your mediumship experiences?
Yes. Yeah, I've had, as a little girl, I had Mother Mary being very supportive of me, and she would often comfort me and physically touch me to ensure that I knew I wasn't alone and that I had her presence. Ascended masters have often popped up, even though I had no idea who they were, but later on down the track you look hindsight and you think, oh, that was Gandhi.
Nice.
Or whatever.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. And then also archangels. The more that I do this work, the more that I, step into the light worker role, the more I realize how connected I am, and everyone else is, to the archangels. We may not know it, but they are constantly working with us. They're constantly guiding us. And the mediumship is enables me to be able to connect with them and have a proper conversation about what's going on with the person who I'm reading. And I believe... Did that answer the question? Wait.
I just said let's talk about it.
Oh, good. So it's some people even connect with Jesus. That's mediumship, and Jesus was a medium himself.
Exactly.
So,
well, when I was in the church as a young person, I would have visitations, and I would have a lot of that, but I just, because of my paradigm, what was safe for me was then to make it Jesus. And I feel like it was like Jesus would be like, okay, I'll be the one then. He would like take the place of whatever it was. If you don't want anybody else at this time, I'll be there.
Well, that's exactly right. So we have so many artists that portray what the archangels look like, or, ascended masters. And there's a lot of commonalities between them. However, ideally, they're just energy.
They're just energy. Because the commonalities are us, again. It's how we can map them. It's how we benchmarks is the way I like to think of it. It's a signature that we collectively can create so that we know how to enter. Again, another portal. It's a little benchmark, a little... and so, the archangels, they aren't humanoid. They aren't... They
haven't had a physical body before,
right? Exactly.
So therefore they don't encompass it when they come to you. It's either a color, an energy, a frequency, vibration, a sound, a tone sometimes. And I, once again, the people who initially drew that first picture of their encounter, of what they envisioned, put that there into the intention, and then the belief system was formed around that. So that, the haunted house theory, again, is now with the positivity of an archangel. Right. So the archangels then use that tool. They're constantly using our knowledge base and our awarenesses and our language to try and portray their information. But ultimately, the true language is vibration and frequency and tone. So the mediumship can create that English or whatever, Spanish whatever language that you need to do to receive that information, and others just intuitively sense them or feel them or see their color and things like that. So,
right. When I met Ariel, Archangel Ariel, I didn't know there was an archangel named Ariel. I just was reading an angel book, and it was my first, so that's how new I was to it. I didn't know there was an archangel Ariel. It didn't even occur to me that El means of God, and it's a typical name for angels that we've assigned. And I asked who my guardian angel was, and I heard Ariel, and I was like the Little Mermaid? That's dumb. It's not very angelic. That was really my thought. Yeah. And then I looked it up and also continued to read the book I was reading. Yep. Archangel Ariel oversees nature and animals and animal communication and, all this kind of stuff. And I was floored, you know what I mean? Because I had already been experiencing the rediscovery of my gift of animal communication. But I didn't know that Ariel was a thing, but it is known, and we have collectively chosen the name Ariel for that energy, that archangelic energy. And again, the word archangel is associated with religions, but it's not religious.
It's the tier.
Yes,
arc
right.
And an angel. They are all angels.
Right.
But it's the arc and the tier of where they're at.
Right.
I was similar. I actually met Michael was the very first archangel that I encountered, and it was during a meditation class where the instructor actually said, okay, we're going to do a cleansing and cut cord, she didn't say cut cords, we're going to cleanse our energy, we're going to bring down the angel and work with him. And here we think angel, little cherub with little wings and a little bubble butt. And, and all of a sudden I'm envisioning this awesome royal blue and this fiery sword. I'm like, I'm doing it wrong. I'm having warfare in my, I'm being attacked. There's swords coming at me. And so I quickly was corrected. So, that's Archangel Michael. That's not how I've ever envisioned angels. It's
supposed to look like Cupid, right?
Yes.
Where's his diaper?
Exactly. So it's I guess they do have the energy and the frequency, but what the belief system of the many generations before us have let them take their form and present like that, so that we're not as confused as to it's beautiful.
So I want to share with you, when I did a class this last year called Archangels and Universal Laws, and so I would work with certain archangel and ask them about to channel a message about a particular universal law, but also about the actual angel. And when I connected with Sandalphon, who was said to have been the man Enoch. Is that right, or is he Elijah? Yeah, that's right. Metatron was Elijah. Yeah. So actually, I think it was Metatron first, because with it happened. Both of them affirmed this. So with Metatron, I asked about this, having incarnated as a human and then ascending to the archangelic realm. Well, with the Elijah story in particular, so with Elijah in the Torah, or the Christian Old Testament, or what's called in the Bible the Old Testament, the story of Elijah is that he was taken up into a chariot of fire, and so he physically ascended. And this chariot of fire, though, is the Merkaba, or it's the Merkaba energy.
Metatron has constantly with the Merkaba.
He's the Merkaba, right? Yeah. And so this Merkaba energy, so the Merkaba is essentially a light vehicle, and it transforms and runs, and probably Kurt can look up. Will you look up Metatron's cube? And that's a sacred geometric shape that represents it. So Elijah experienced the Merkaba. And as he did that, it opened up a portal for us to understand the archangelic energy that we call Metatron in a different way, in a way that we hadn't identified. But there was almost like there was something really shifted in that experience of our plane. And Metatron has always been, but Elijah was a part of the experience that opened up, that was. Yes. Does that make
Connected,
sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So essentially it's not that it's wrong, and perhaps Metatron, the energy of Metatron, was really abiding with and walking along and embodying. Elijah was embodying that expression of divine.
Yes.
But it's not as simple and linear as this man became an archangel. It's a bit more complex than that.
Yes.
Yeah, but it made so much sense as he described that in the experience of Enoch and Elijah. I mean, Enoch and Sandalphon was a similar story. It's like kind of that experience, that powerful experience shifted our understanding and our vibration of in this plane, and the man was a part of, a prophet who was a part of the facilitation of that, or embodying that divine, the divine becoming us, which is actually the truth. Rather than us becoming divine, the divine becomes us. And so how does
what
that...
it was like before he went up?
I know. Well,
like, was he just a cool dude living a really good life and happy as Larry, which is why he got chosen? Or was he, like, really messed up? And
Really,
so they're like, these humans need help. Like, let's
take
need to
one of these
decode
shitty ones.
him. If he can't be the example, nobody can.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I love it.
Because God loves all,
Yes, exactly. Nobody is too good or too poor. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So anyway, that's so the being with the in the archangelic realm, and there's also this belief I would love to just remove from anyone in case it is out there, because when I discovered that, I had that experience with Ariel, and then I continued reading in my little book, and in that book it said, archangels cannot and will not be your guardian angels. And I was like, oh, but that's what I asked for. And I heard Ariel. Oh, I must be wrong. You know what I mean? Like, I had to do all this backtracking.
State that law?
Yeah, exactly.
Who are you to speak that into existence?
Right.
Maybe not yours.
Yes, if that's what you
want
like.
it.
Yeah.
So
any of us, and we all are, like you say, all are connecting with that realm. And
absolutely. And some even more so. Like, there's multiple levels. We only really generally talk about the archangels, but there's the seraphim and like all of the closer to God and those of working for God and with God. And so it's, it's all relevant. I don't know where I was going with that.
I know, right.
Yeah.
And we're out of time. Can you believe how fast that went?
Oh my gosh, that went so quick.
But just before we sign off,
Yes.
included in multidimensional mediumship, you mentioned the avatars are ascended masters, and then of course the angels and archangels, but there's also like star beings, benevolent, intergalactics, cosmic beings, and I think sometimes, I really don't know if there's any difference between some of those and angels. Some of those don't really create a physical form. We
kind of touched upon that at home the other day when we were talking about the DNA makeup and structure of how, evolutionary things. And I
oh my gosh, I just saw somebody over there. A big bright orb just went zoot.
What color?
It was white. It was very white, but it had a little pale blue in the center too, but it was very white.
Yeah. I actually saw Palladians before when you said that word.
Oh.
Yeah.
Maybe that's who it was then. I was like not now.
Yeah, me
Kellie's
too.
talking.
Like, back up, don't make me look crazy on
And I'm not very, with my physical eyes,
visual.
very visual. I'm more clairvisual, but that is the place that I get spirit, is in the bottom corner of my right eye.
That's generally when people are first starting to open up their clairvoyance. It's out of the peripheral,
right?
It's
the physical clairvoyance.
Yeah, the physical, the physical eye clairvoyance. There's the internal mind's eye.
Right.
I saw that in the internal mind's eye, whereas that was in the physical. So.
And that one was so pronounced, and the reason we see it on the side of the eye is because it's actually more sensitive to light, and the front of our eyes, or our eyes in general, are actually trained by our bodies to disregard anything that is non-physical, so that it can keep us physically alive. Yeah. And so it's normal. It's not like physical eye clairvoyance is better than the the mind's eye one. It's normal and natural that we mostly see it with the mind's eye. Yeah.
I also believe that the light of angels, archangels, is so intense that even if we were to see it with the blind physical eye, that we would be damaged.
Yeah.
And so therefore they never really come at you physically in the front. They always give you a little twinkle of their existence off to the side.
This one was so it was either angelic or maybe it was Palladian, because I was talking about them. Yeah, probably was. Often it wasn't fairy, it wasn't fae or elemental energy, because because those are like more, I don't know,
jittery and happy.
This was like
because they have such an intense energy, don't they? Whenever I'm doing mediumship with intergalactics, there is such it sounds weird to say a density from a light beam, right? Like there's such a heavy lower tone frequency of like what you were saying, like that humming, that real gut humming.
It's that it's so it's so much that it does go into the deeper realms, and maybe it's especially if we're talking about
distance too, the long distance throughout the galactic,
the speed of light,
And
now we're getting into it. We're getting into it, and we're over time. All right. Well, Kellie, so visit her website, Kellie Anne Nelson. She is an intuitive life coach. She, in addition, we talked about mediumship. We talked about multiple dimensional mediumship. She does amazing programs and ongoing coaching, shifting people's lives. So go check Kellie out. And of course, she's going to be guest teaching in the Mediumship Intensive that Crystal and I are teaching. You can find all of the links for all of this. And, if you're watching on YouTube, comment and ask us some questions. I would love to hear what your experiences are, and if you have any questions. And if you're listening on the podcast feed, you can also leave a review. And anything else, Kellie, that you would like to share?
Embrace your weird. I would love to see people not fear this anymore. I would love to see people really step into their own truth, find their power, and embrace everything that you're being guided to do. And that's whether it be spiritual, mediumship-wise, or just following your passion in life. Life is too short to, play someone else's game and follow someone else's rules. Obviously, society, we have to conform in some way.
Push it a little bit,
the boundary, our line. But if you truly take the time to do your own inner work, if you truly take the time to get to know yourself, the meditation, the self-care, then you will live a remarkable and happy life. And I really want that for everybody. And I think we are all very capable of doing that. So if you haven't signed up for Tricia's mediumship and Crystal's mediumship class, do so.
Plugging it at the end. Yeah. So sweet. Thank you so much again, Kellie Anne Nelson. Check out our website. Thank you guys for joining us for this episode. And thank you for tuning in. I love you, whoever you are.